Hello, folks. We're still working on the newest episode of Paths of Fear, so in the meantime, enjoy this episode we recorded years ago but never posted. Sorry if the audio is weirdly different from more recent episodes, but I hope you enjoy.
We left off season 1 with dead moms, and we... Never mind, I can't spoil anything. But I'm recognizing a pattern. So I'll ask you, Ian, would you... If you were crazy, would you impersonate your dead mother?
My mother is very healthy and alive, so would I impersonate her? Absolutely.
Wonderful.
How about you?
I couldn't pull it off.
Oh.
I'm much too tall.
That's fair.
They tell you what its ingredients are and how it's guaranteed to exterminate every insect in the world. But they do not tell you whether or not it's painless. And I say, insect or man, death should always be painless.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Paths of Fear, Season 2. I'm Marshall.
And I'm Ian.
And we are the podcast that explores horror movies and gets the opinions of our audiences.
Yeah. Also known as the podcast where we have really quality introductions.
Yes, that's true. I've actually gotten lots of tweets about that. I actually haven't set up our Twitter. This week we watched Psycho from Alfred Hitchcock, based on the Robert... How do you say that name? Bloch novel? Is his name just Bloch?
Robert Bloch, maybe?
Based on the Robert Bloch novel.
Right.
It came out in 1960, and it's, if you ask me, it's kind of the basis for what we have in slashers today. We'll dive right into it. Ian will give us a little teaser, and we'll start things off.
All right. Marion, a real estate secretary, is in love. Not so much with the dreamy man she's been seeing, but with the life they could have together, if only she had the means to make it happen. One morning, a lascivious rich man comes to Marion's office, looking to buy a house for his daughter, in cash. After he flaunts his wealth in front of her, a whole $40K, Marion is told by her boss to take the money to the bank for safekeeping. There it is, Marion's chance for a new life, stowed in one thick envelope. As Phoenix disappears in her rearview mirror, Marion's mind is filled with the voices of her old life. Her boss, her friends, her family. Surely they'll think she's gone completely psycho.
The way you said thick, I don't know. It just did it for me this morning.
Good.
There's just good emphasis there.
Thick envelope.
Mm-hmm. Well, Ian, I gotta say, this is my second time ever watching this movie, and the first time, I was much too young to understand what the heck was happening.
Same, actually. Same.
Everything was black and white. There were two female leads. It was just all too crazy for me, man. But, in the end, it actually ends up pretty good once you understand it. I thought.
Yeah, I'd agree. Because I think I watched it young enough where it's like, I know technically I've watched this movie before.
Exactly.
But I don't even know if I watched the whole thing. I can't remember. Yeah, so this is essentially the first time I'm watching it completely and understanding.
Dude, I'm going to guarantee you I fell asleep. I think the first time I watched it, I just wanted to know what the sound was playing whenever you charged up that knife in Payday 2. But yeah, I think that's really all I got out of it the first time. But this time I got a good bit more out of it, and that's what we're going to talk about today.
Yeah, and I think it's a perfect way to start season 2 off. Having some previous horror movies under our belt, I feel like we're ready to approach more of a well-known, classic, influential film like this.
I would say so. Well, I'm gonna hop right into it, Ian. I'm gonna give this movie a gosh dang 8 out of 10.
Oh, okay. All right.
Yeah.
8 out of 10. Yeah, not bad, not bad. I don't disagree with you too much. So, which, hey, good way to start, I think.
Look at that, yeah.
But I give it a 7 out of 10. So not quite a
7
5,
out
but
of 10,
still quite
okay.
good.
Yeah, I mean, I just really enjoyed it. You just hated it. It's fine.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. Well, awesome. Do you want to give us that summary, Ian, and we'll dive into it in further detail?
Yeah, that sounds good. Wait. Oh, we forgot. What is the audience's average score?
Oh my gosh, I even have it pulled up. I at least have it pulled up. That's something.
Yeah, that is something.
They give it. Oh my god, they give it an 8 out of 10.
Oh, wow.
They agree with me, Ian. This is the first time.
I feel a little left out, but that's okay.
That's fine, Ian. Now you know what it's like when you're giving movies 7s out of 10s, and they're all like, "This movie sucks."
That's good. That's good. It's Friday afternoon, December 11th. Marion, a real estate secretary in Phoenix, Arizona, is in a hotel room with her out-of-town lover, Sam Loomis. While at first it's difficult for them to keep their hands off of each other, the mood shifts when they begin to talk about their future. Sam is struggling to pay off his father's debt and his alimony payments. Marion, who's more financially stable, is willing to do whatever it takes to marry the man of her dreams, yet Sam fears what kind of man that would make him.
Yeah. Live with me in a storeroom behind a hardware store in Fairvale. We'll have lots of laughs. Tell you what, when I send my ex-wife her alimony, you can lick the stamps.
After her extended lunch break, Marion returns to the real estate office shortly before her boss, George Lowry, comes in with a new client, Mr. Cassidy. The fellow is loud and proud. He's equal parts obscenely wealthy and just plain obscene.
Do you know what I do about unhappiness? I buy it off. Are you unhappy?
Cassidy intends to purchase a nice house from the agency for $40,000 cash as a wedding present for his daughter. Though he seems entirely comfortable flaunting his wealth and leaving it with the agency during the deal, the amount of cash makes George sensibly nervous. He tells Marion to take it to the bank immediately so it can be stored in a safe deposit box until Cassidy comes to his senses and writes a check. Marion asks if it would be okay to take the rest of the day off once she puts the money in the bank, on account of a developing headache, to which her boss agrees.
Aren't you going to take the pills? They'll knock that headache out.
Can't buy off unhappiness with pills. I guess I'll go put this money in the bank, then go home and sleep it off.
However, Marion doesn't go to the bank. Instead, she goes home and begins packing. She can't quite believe what she's doing, and yet she can't seem to stop herself either. As she drives out, she ponders what Sam will think when she shows up in Fairville, California without warning, and with enough cash to buy out their unhappiness. As Marion stops at an intersection, her boss walks past with Mr. Cassidy and gives Marion a pleasantly surprised glance, which quickly turns to one of concern when he remembers where Marion was supposed to be. Seeing George fills Marion with a new sense of paranoia, and she continues her drive through the night and into the next day, eventually parking alongside the road to sleep when she can't keep her eyes open any longer. Marion is startled awake by the knock of a highway patrol officer on her door.
Is anything wrong?
Of course not. Am I acting as if there's something wrong?
Frankly, yes.
Please, I'd like to go.
Well, is there?
Is there what? I've told you there's nothing wrong, except that I'm in a hurry and you're taking up my time.
Now, just a moment. Turn your motor off, please.
Suspicious of her behavior and demeanor, the officer asks to see her driver's license, which he appears to note down alongside her car's plate number. After letting her go, the officer follows Marion for some ways, increasing her anxiety even further. After briefly losing sight of the patrol car, she pulls into a used car dealership and pushes the salesman for a quick cash-only deal and trade-in.
You mean you don't want the usual day and I have to think it over? You are in a hurry, aren't you? Somebody chasing you?
The officer, having found Marion again, watches all this from across the street and even walks up to her new car, though she drives off in it before he can confront her directly. With her paranoia at an all-time high, Marion can't stop thinking about what was said at the dealership after she left.
She looked like a wrong one to you?
Acted like one.
The only funny thing, she paid me $700 in cash.
As she continues her drive into the night, Marion continues to imagine people talking about her. Her boss, her coworker, her sister, Cassidy, all putting together what she's done. With all the internal pressure building inside her head and the new intense rainstorm raging on overhead, Marion pulls over when she spots the neon sign of the Bates Motel. There, she meets Norman Bates, an odd but friendly host.
12 cabins, 12 vacancies. They moved away the highway.
Oh, I thought I'd gotten off the main road.
I knew you must have. Nobody ever stops here anymore unless they've done that. But there's no sense dwelling on our losses. We just keep on lighting the lights and following the formalities.
Though shy and soft-spoken, Norman speaks openly with Marion about the state of the motel and the tense reality of living with his mother who manages it with him. Marion realizes that she likely took a wrong turn since she ended up on this local highway off the main interstate. However, she is pleasantly surprised to find out that Fairvale is only 15 miles away. Still nervous about being followed, Marion registers with a fake name, after which she is checked into Cabin 1, which shares a wall with the motel's management office. Norman then asks if she'd like to have dinner with him up at his house, and Marion accepts.
I don't set a fancy table, but the kitchen's awful homey.
I'd like to.
All right, yeah, you get yourself settled and take off your wet shoes, and I'll be back as soon as it's ready.
Okay.
Once Norman leaves, Marion tends to the situation at hand and thinks about how best to hide the cash. She decides to remove it from its envelope and wraps it up in a newspaper, which she sets on the bedside table, hiding it in plain sight. Just then, she overhears Norman having an argument with his mother at the house. It seems that Norman's mother is suspicious of young women getting close with her son. She forbids him from bringing Marion up for dinner. Instead, Norman brings the humble meal of sandwiches and milk to Marion, who invites him into her room. Norman, a bit apprehensive, decides they should eat in the office parlor instead. Upon entering, Marion is a bit put off by the quantity of taxidermied birds decorating the walls and furniture.
I don't really know anything about birds. My hobby is stuffing things. You know, taxidermy. And I guess I'd just rather stuff birds because I hate the look of beasts when they're stuffed. You know, foxes and chimps. Some people even stuff dogs and cats, but, oh, I can't do that. I think only birds look well stuffed because they're kind of passive to begin with.
As it turns out, Norman has plenty of time to stuff birds, as he really doesn't have much else to do. The motel and his mother make up the extent of Norman's existence. He says that ever since his mother's lover died tragically, she's been ill, and only he can take care of her. Both he and Marion seem to share the feeling of being trapped.
We're all in our private traps, clamped in them, and none of us can ever get out.
The conversation takes a turn when Marion suggests that perhaps Norman's mother should be institutionalized. This angers Norman, and he adamantly refuses to do such a thing. His mother is harmless as a stuffed bird.
It's not as if she were a maniac, a raving thing. She just goes a little mad sometimes. We all go a little mad sometimes.
The way that Norman talks of his mother and her madness causes a shift in Marion's thinking. Had she gone mad too? She says goodnight to Norman, noting that she's tired and she'll need to sleep to prepare for the long drive back to Phoenix.
I stepped into a private trap back there, and I'd like to go back and try to pull myself out of it.
Once Marion returns to her room, she changes into her robe. Still in the office parlor, Norman removes a picture from the wall, revealing a peephole, which he looks through to watch Marion undress. After a few seconds, he replaces the picture and walks back up to the house. Meanwhile, Marion writes on a notepad, figuring out how much cash she needs to make up. After tying up the page and fleshing it, she goes to take a shower. As she washes, a silhouette appears on the other side of the shower curtain. The silhouette, that of an older woman in a robe, throws the curtain back and raises a large kitchen knife in the air. The figure brings the knife down again and again until Marian's screams fall silent. Soon after, Norman's yells can be heard from the house.
Mother! Oh, God! Mother! Blood! Blood!
He rushes down from the house and into Marian's room, only to find her bloodied body sprawled over the side of the tub and onto the bathroom's tiled floor. After getting through the initial shock, Norman closes the room's windows, door, and turns off the lights before going outside. Realizing what he has to do, he retrieves the motel's cleaning supplies and returns to Marian, the shower still running. He wraps Marian's body in the shower curtain and systematically cleans up the blood before sitting Marian and all of her possessions into the trunk of her car. After a quick double check, he also sees the folded-up newspaper, which he tosses into the trunk as well, not knowing it contains the stolen money. Norman drives the car to the bog behind the motel, where he sets it in neutral and pushes it into the murky water, watching it slowly sink until it disappears altogether. The following week, Sam Loomis is writing a letter in the office at the back of his hardware store. It's addressed to Marian. Sam has changed his mind and wants to get married, regardless of his debts. He's interrupted when Marian's sister Lila enters the store asking if he's seen Marian. Shortly after, a private investigator named Arbogast enters the store, also asking for Marian's whereabouts. Sam, knowing nothing of Marian's situation, is taken off guard by their questions, and upon explanation can't quite believe what's happened.
Can't believe it. Can you? Well, you know, we're always quickest to doubt people who have a reputation for being honest. I think she's here, Miss Crane. But there's a boyfriend. Well, she's not back there with the nuts and bolts, but she's here, in this town, somewhere.
Arbogast is suspicious of Sam. He's convinced that Marian is close by, and he leaves to check all nearby hotels and boarding houses. This eventually lands him at the Bates Motel, where he meets Norman Bates. He starts to ask Norman about Marian. Norman is resistant, even before seeing her picture, and tries to claim there hasn't been a guest for weeks. However, picking up on Norman's reluctance, Arbogast continues to press him, eventually getting eyes on the guest registry. There he finds Marian's alias, using the handwriting sample he brought with him.
Oh, yes. Here we are. Marie Samuels. That's an interesting address.
Is that her?
Yeah, I think so. Marie, Marian, Samuels. Your boyfriend's name is Sam. Mm-hmm.
Caught in his lie, Norman finally admits that he had seen the woman matching Marian's description, that she stayed last Saturday night, going straight to sleep, and left early the following morning. Further gaps and inconsistencies in Norman's story increases Arbogast's suspicion. He knows something's missing. After leaving the office, Arbogast spots a silhouette in the window of the house behind the motel, and he asks Norman if anyone's home. At first, Norman says he lives alone, but quickly admits it's his mother, just that she's disabled to the degree that it's like living alone. Norman's defensiveness leads Arbogast to believe he could be hiding Marian.
Let's just say, just for the sake of argument, that she wanted you to gallantly protect her. You'd know that you were being used, that you wouldn't be made a fool of, would you?
But I'm not a fool.
Well,
And I'm not capable of being fooled, not even by a woman.
Well, this is not a slur on your manhood. I'm sorry.
Let's put it this way. She might have fooled me, but she didn't fool my mother.
Well, then your mother met her. Could I talk to your mother?
Arbogast asks if he can talk to Norman's mother. This angers Norman, who tells Arbogast to leave. Arbogast complies and drives to a nearby payphone. He calls Marion's sister Lila and tells her what he's found out, but that he thinks there's more to find. At this point, Arbogast believes that Sam was telling the truth about not knowing what was going on. Arbogast says he'll meet back up with him in an hour or so after he stops by the motel again. He still wants to question Norman's mother, believing that she must have met and talked to Marion. Upon returning to the motel, Norman is nowhere to be seen, so the detective snoops around, eventually going up to the house where the front door has been left unlocked. Arbogast makes his way up the stairs with slow and methodical steps, and eventually makes it to the top, where suddenly the knife-wielding figure of Norman's mother appears around the corner and slices across the detective's face. He falls to the bottom of the stairs, and before he can come to, the killer runs down to finish the job. When Arbogast doesn't return to the hardware shop, Lila becomes restless and decides she must go to the motel herself to check on him. Sam, initially resistant, tells Lila that he will go instead, and that she should wait at the store in case Arbogast comes back while he's gone. Upon arriving at the Bates Motel, Sam calls out for Arbogast. Norman hears this while he stands by the bog behind the motel, having just disposed of the detective and his car. Sam returns to Lila, having no better idea of what happens to Arbogast.
No Arbogast, no Bates. Only the old lady at home. Sick old lady unable to answer the door, or unwilling.
Where could he have gone?
Maybe he got some definite lead. Maybe he went right on.
Without calling me?
In a hurry.
Sam, he called when he had nothing but a dissatisfied feeling. Don't you think he'd have called if he had anything at all?
Lila and Sam, now almost certain that something terrible has happened to Arbogast, seek the help of the local deputy sheriff, Al Chambers. The two explain the situation to the sheriff, how Marion ran away with stolen money, how a private detective was hired to track her down, and finally, how this private detective disappeared shortly after finding some leads regarding the Bates Motel. The sheriff, however, is unconcerned and is confident that this PI has played the two of them for fools and gone off to track down the stolen money for himself. Nevertheless, Lila and Sam are able to convince the sheriff to give the Bates Motel a call. Norman tells the sheriff that a detective did come by, but never returned to the motel. Pleased with this answer, the sheriff bids Norman a good night and hangs up. Lila protests, saying that Arbogast wanted to go back to talk to Norman's mother, yet this only reaffirms the sheriff's theory that Arbogast was lying, as Norman's mother has been dead for years.
You mean that old woman I saw sitting in the window out there wasn't Bates' mother?
Now, wait a minute, Sam. Are you sure you saw an old woman?
Yes. In the house behind the motel. I called and pounded, but she just ignored me.
You want to tell me you saw Norman Bates' mother?
But it had to be. Because Arbogast said so, too.
At the motel, Norman is worried about the rising suspicion concerning him and his mother. Shortly after going up to his mother's room, an argument can be heard between the two, where Norman tells his mother she should hide in the fruit cellar for a few days. After his mother adamantly refuses, Norman decides to carry her downstairs anyway, with her cursing him every step of the way. The next morning, Sunday, Lila and Sam meet Mr. and Mrs. Chambers outside their church service. Sheriff Chambers tells them he already went to the Bates Motel, and, as expected, found Norman alone managing the premises. He tells the two of them that they'd be better off filing a missing person report and leaving it to the law to find Marion and Arbogast. Unsatisfied with this, Lila and Sam decide to go investigate the motel on their own.
Well, you want me to drop you at the hotel, or...?
Sam, I still won't feel satisfied until I go out there.
Neither will I. Come on.
Lila and Sam register at the motel as a married couple and plan to search every inch of the property. They start by searching cabin 1, the one Arbogast said Marion had stayed in. The cabin seems mostly untouched except for a missing shower curtain and some pieces of paper that didn't get fully flushed down the toilet. One of the pieces has some number subtracted from $40,000 written on it, confirming that Marion had been there with the stolen money, and suggesting that Norman might have known about it. Lila decides that she has to talk to Norman's mother, since she figures whatever Arbogast found out about her is what led to his disappearance. Sam is reluctant to let her go off on her own, but Lila convinces him that she can handle a sick old woman while he distracts Norman. They set their plan into action, and Lila is able to search most of the house, including Norman's mother's room, looking barely lived in, other than the outline of a woman's body deeply impressed into the bed. Meanwhile, Sam's been pressing Norman more and more to get him to talk about money, looking for some indication that he knows where the stolen money is. An agitated Norman realizes the other guest might be snooping around and runs off to the house.
Where's that girl you came here with? Where is she?
Sam tries to stop him, but in their struggle, Norman knocks him over the head and pushes aside the dazed Sam to go after Lila. Seeing Norman run up to the house, Lila quickly ducks under the stairs, narrowly missing getting spotted. As Lila prepares to make a run for it while Norman heads upstairs, Lila notices the cellar door and goes to investigate. There, she finds the old woman in the fruit cellar, her back turned to the door.
Mrs. Bates.
Lila approaches and taps her shoulder. Yet as the figure turns in her chair, only the decomposed and dried-up corpse of Norman's mother is revealed. Lila screams. Hearing her scream, Norman, dressed as an old woman, runs into the room with his kitchen knife. Yet before he can attack Lila, Sam runs from behind and grabs Norman, managing to disarm and wrestle him to the ground. Sometime later, Lila, Sam, and Sheriff Chambers wait in the office of the county courthouse, anticipating what the psychologist tasked with interviewing Norman might find. When the doctor returns, he sets about providing a lengthy and thorough explanation of what happened and why. The primary source? Norman's split personality between himself and his late mother.
He only half existed to begin with. And now, the other half has taken over. Probably for all time.
The doctor further explains that Norman had always had a close, unbreakable, and toxic relationship with his mother. The two of them were inseparable until his mother fell for a man. Norman's jealousy and resentment built up until he poisoned and killed them both. Yet, unable to cope with the death of his mother and the part he played in it, Norman kept his mother's corpse, having a weighted coffin buried in her stead. Yet, as his mother's body deteriorated further, and it was no longer enough to have just her physical presence, Norman began to think and talk for his mother as well. Yet, this mother personality grew jealous of Norman whenever he had feelings for other women, just as Norman had felt towards his mother. This would lead the mother personality to take over completely, meaning that as far as Norman was concerned, it truly was his mother who killed Marion and Arbogast, while Norman dutifully tried to protect her from the consequences. Yet, as Norman continued to relent to this other personality, his own personality had become more and more lost, and now it seemed he was almost completely gone.
You see, when the mind houses two personalities, there's always a conflict, a battle. In Norman's case, the battle is over, and the dominant personality has won.
And the $40,000? Who got that?
The swamp. These were crimes of passion, not profit.
After the psychologist finishes his presentation, Norman can be seen in a locked holding cell, his mother's voice dominating his mind. She knows they will put her son away, but that's okay with her. She'll be fine, since she could never do anything wrong, being a harmless old woman herself. To prove it, she decides to remain perfectly still, showing everyone that she could never cause any harm herself.
They're probably watching me. Well, let them. Let them see what kind of a person I am. I'm not even going to swat that fly. I hope they are watching. They'll see. They'll see, and they'll know, and they'll say, why, she wouldn't even harm a fly.
The movie ends with the final image of Marion's car being towed out of the bog.
That's a killer summary, Ian.
Thank you.
Quite fantastic. All right. Well, I gave this movie an 8. You gave it a 7, Ian. Let's dive into first what it is that we really enjoyed about this movie.
Okay.
What about this movie were you like, yeah, that's some good stuff. That's the good stuff right there for this movie.
So I think where I start with this is probably very similar to where a lot of other people start with that. And it's that the soundtrack is amazing. Even compared with old movies, there's a lot of comparisons you can make. And there are some in this movie that I will make where it's just they're just not quite as good. It might not even be because of a lot of it can have to do with the restrictions that they had in terms of technology, all that sort of stuff, practical effects, all that. However, this movie, even today, the soundtrack is incredible, and it's something that all horror movies can look to when they want to use music in a track to emphasize their horror elements. The scene where you can really tell the soundtrack is doing work is when Marion is driving away from her old life, the cash in the glove box, or I guess in her purse, actually. And the sound is just, along with, of course, all those voices in her head, it's really giving you that anxiety that she feels. And I think that's, without that music, it would be completely different. Not at all what it is now. So yeah, that's the first thing that I look to in this movie where that's amazing. I wouldn't change a thing. That's the soundtrack.
No, I agree. The soundtrack, throughout the whole thing, I'm thinking, like, this is perfect. This is, like, it's enjoyable, even if it's making me, like, if it's on the anxious side, it's, like, an enjoyable track while still conveying that emotion, and it's wonderful. So I got to be right with you there. The soundtrack is wonderful. And then, of course, you have to give it props on its directing, because it is Alfred Hitchcock. And he's known as one of the greater directors ever for a reason. This is one of his most famous scenes, without a doubt, is the shower scene in Psycho, where we see Janet Leigh, Jamie Lee Curtis's mom. We see her performing her original Scream Queen glory in the shower scene. If you look at it, you never see a knife like enter the body, However, it's one of the stabbing scenes that actually kind of makes you grimace. At least it did for me. I don't know about you. And it's crazy that it does, because there are so many movies today that are, hold on, I'm hearing strange sounds.
Ooh, scary.
Okay, I actually thought I was hearing a little girl. So yeah, I was a little creeped out there. I won't lie to you. I have no idea what was happening.
Oh, man.
I hope it was the TV upstairs. I'm gonna cry later about it. But yeah, okay. So we have the wonderful, amazing shower scene where we don't actually see any stabbing. In so many movies today, we even see the stabbing, and it goes like right through us. We don't give it any mind. So from there, really puts emphasis on just how much of a handle Hitchcock had on his craft, because I am sympathizing with these stabs. I can't see any of them. There's just rapid cuts, and there's lots of cutting sounds, and then there's the reactions and some of the blood spilling into the drain, which, if I recall correctly, I think that blood is actually chocolate syrup.
Yeah.
Because in a black and white...
Yep.
Yeah, in a black and white film, chocolate syrup resembles blood very well. Just the directing on that part is so spectacular, and you get so many other moments where it's just so well shot, and there's just some like iconic little visuals, like Norman watching the car sink into the swamp. There's just the wonderful setup of like these wonderful symmetries you have in the shots of like when they're all standing around with the private investigator and they're just talking in that shop. It's just so well shot, and you cannot look past that with a Hitchcock movie. It's just something you have to appreciate. So if you're going with sound, Ian, I'm going with visuals.
Okay. Sounds good.
Yeah. All right, your turn, Ian.
Okay. Well, let's see, because I know we're talking about things that we like about the movie, but of course, this actually heavily relates to something that I thought wasn't great about the movie. So you might disagree with me here. I think that the death scenes in this movie are actually pretty bad compared to what we see in movies today. They're not very believable for me. For me, they're even a little bit silly. Like with the shower scene, while I know it's famous and everything, like you said, like you never actually see the knife entering Marion, right? You never see her actually being stabbed. And that's fine. Like, I accept that, like, there are ways to make a death look scary, be scary, without actually showing the wound itself, without actually showing body horror. However, I also remember seeing the knife, like, next to the skin, like, always sort of next to the skin, and it's like, and it wasn't that bloody. It wasn't the amount of blood you would expect from someone being stabbed, like, 8 times. I think that even at this time, even with Alfred Hitchcock, the like acting of like dying wasn't great. Like, was it better than the original Halloween? Yes. They weren't like, it's not like Marion was, you weren't confused as if maybe she was either having a really good time or a really bad time. No, it was obvious that she was having a bad time, but still, I think that performance, they still hadn't quite figured that out yet. And then when it comes to like the death of the private investigator, I was talking to my girlfriend Millie about this movie, and she actually thought, and I totally agree with this, that they would have been much better off not actually showing the death of the private investigator. You know, that can leave you with, there's some mystery there, like, did he just disappear? That's another reveal. That's something for the audience to put together. Like, for all these old movies, I have yet to see one where they make a death scene, like, you know, truly believable, like I've seen in more recent films. And that includes the private investigator one as well. Like, I think it's cool the way that they did it, the way that Hitchcock did it, the way you have him falling down the stairs and the slash across his face. Do I think it's believable? No. And so those parts of the movie were actually parts where I sort of broke away from the film a little bit, where I wasn't able to lean in enough to have those be as impactful as they would have been when this movie first came out.
Yeah, I hear that on the other ones. I think the shower one still gets me, even though, yes, there are some times when, like, they're going next to the body with a knife. I think it's the Foley work there that does it for me, of hearing that, like, skin tear, because I feel like that's not a sound we get today, is, like, skin tearing weirdly. And I don't think skin actually tears. I know skin doesn't tear when you cut it. I've played with enough knives to know that. But it's this weird kind of sound that really bothers me, and it sounds believable. I think that it's the directing with the Foley work there that I can get to. As for, is there that much blood? There probably would be a good deal more blood, that's for sure. But that's a lot of chocolate syrup to just waste. You know?
That's why they didn't do it.
Exactly. They were just like, how am I going to make my chalky milk?
Yep.
If we use all the blood. I will say for the visuals that I am really impressed by their ability to keep the mother's face hidden throughout the whole thing. So I feel like if you're watching it for the first time and you don't know the twist, you're thinking like, that's like, it's annoying that we haven't seen the mom yet. Like, what a terribly shot film. Jeez. Mm-hmm. And in the end, you're like, oh my God, that's why. And it's so cool to watch back and see just like how close we get to seeing her without ever actually seeing her.
I think that's even, that could even be a reason why I didn't give this movie like an 8, right? Because I was never, and I never will be able to, it's kind of sad, I watched it knowing what the twist was. And I think that takes a lot away from the movie. I know that someone in our audience, who's also my friend, Andy, I know this was his first time watching it, and he did not know the twists. And so I'm sure he got a lot more enjoyment out of it because of that. Because it was so well done, like you say, like the way that it was shot and everything. It's brilliant in how they are able to hide it. It's too bad that I won't get to experience that organically.
I know, and I wish I could do that too. I think the first time I watched it, that was like one of the few things I understood. And I hate past little me for understanding one thing.
Yeah.
That would spoil it for now me. The actor who plays Norman Bates, whose name I do not know, who I should know, because they did a great job with the female voice. I'm going to look it up right quick.
So he actually did the voice for the mom?
Well, okay, so it turns out the mother is actually played by basically 7 different people, 6 of which are uncredited. There's Anthony Perkins, who plays Norman Bates, who is in a way the mother. There are 3 body doubles and 3 voice actors behind the mother.
Wow.
That's so seamless. I never would have guessed that. It's 3 different voice actors. But yeah, it's a shame that they went uncredited. That's so sad. I don't know why they would ever not credit that. Whatever the case, I still just love Anthony Perkins' performance in it, even if it is just as Norman Bates.
Mm-hmm.
he has this like wonderful way of giving that air about him, like, oh, I'm just a regular old dude living in a motel. But then he can let you in on that unease very well, which I enjoy. And this movie, like all movies from like 1950, 1960, it has that particular acting style that is very pronounced and bold. Like subtleties you don't really come by.
Right.
I've always been curious, like, why that is. Like, because it really does just seem like worse acting.
Mm-hmm.
But I feel like that's unfair to say because maybe it's just like the way they're cut and edit or the way the director directs back then. I don't know. But anytime you watch one of these movies, you can very much tell the time period it's in based on the acting.
Yeah, and if I had to guess, and I'm not like a theater historical nerd or anything, but I know that when it comes to theater, when it comes to acted out plays, like when you watch musicals and everything, the acting is more pronounced, right? It's a little more dramatic. It's a little more overperformed. Because that's like what you expect when you go to see like a musical, a play, when you go to a live action theater. And I think that's where it really comes from. And so when movies started being created, they sort of kept that same acting, that same performing. It's what people expected. But yeah, I think having a character like Norman Bates that's able to have those subtleties of a real person, and I think that's part of what carries the movie so well is his performance as Norman.
I can buy that argument there.
Yep. Again, I don't know. Disclaimer. I don't know, but that's what I would guess.
Overall, I'd say that I got a big old kick out of the movie. I think it was great. I give it an 8 out of 10. I think I'm knock it off 2 points just because the truth of the matter is it is an older film, so it's missing some of the kind of like expectancies you have of a modern film. Mm-hmm. And I hate giving things points just because it's old. I'll give it some forgiveness because it's old, but I'm not going to give it extra credit because it's old.
Yeah.
My only real gripe with it, for the life of me, I had such a hard time telling the difference between Marion and her sister. And that killed me. And then also, like, every man in there has like, and I know it's black and white, but they all clearly have black hair. And like they're just like the same looking dude. Everybody looks the same. Mm-hmm. Like even the cop that pulled him over, I was just like, "Isn't that the boyfriend?"
I was thinking, "Isn't that Terminator?"
Dude, he did have crazy glasses, so he could have rocked a '50s Terminator.
He really could have.
And yeah, I think that brings me on to the other thing I had a bit of a gripe with was that whole kind of cop scene. Mm-hmm. I feel like was a little played out. I feel like her swapping cars really didn't mean much in the end of the film.
No.
The cop stalking her for a while, just like they could have left it at him waking her up and questioning her. Mm-hmm. They would have given you the exact same idea. The whole stopped at the used car sale place. It just, none of it was, the whole time I was watching it, I was like, this is going to come up later. This is how they're going to follow her. This is how they're going to get on a trail. I think they mention it maybe once in passing, but it really played no part. So I was like, so they just threw fluff at me for fun. I don't know.
I think what it adds is that it's sort of a point of no return because it's the time when she is actively spending money that she stole. And so now she can't return all of it. And so I think what it can be is a red herring, right? Because again, we're thinking that this is our main actress. We're thinking we're going to follow her through this film. And she ends up dying. And so I want to say that it's supposed to sort of add to that red herring storyline of like, oh, well, now maybe it's too late. But they don't really use it later. Like she doesn't think about it when when Norman sort of talks to her and then she decides that she's going to head back in the morning. She doesn't really think of that. They sort of leave it there. But I think it can add that to the story, if nothing else.
Oh, it's interesting. You say it's a point of no return. What I think is really interesting about this movie, and I always delve into like the idea of the original sin of the movie, the being punished for your wrongdoings. Mm-hmm. And Marion's, without a doubt, is stealing $40,000 in cash to start her own life. Something that apparently is like totally out of character for her and something she's doing out of a relationship she's desperate to keep working. It's super interesting to me that in her talk with Norman Bates, she realizes I'm being so dumb for trying to do this. Like, this is so stupid of me.
Yeah.
And she tries to go back. She tries to go and make it right. And it doesn't work because by then she gets punished. And I think a lot of movies, like I can't even name another horror movie where they regret what they've done immediately, but then are punished after the regret is made, if that makes sense.
Yeah, which I think is actually quite interesting.
Yeah, I think it's really cool. It speaks to just like, you've made your bed, now sleep in it. Mm-hmm. There's not like you've done the deed. It doesn't care how you feel now. That's life.
Yeah, the movie's also really great at, it's out of character, but it does set it up in such a way where it does seem believable and where even you feel for her a little bit. I mean, that's why they have like the rich guy come in and he's completely, I mean, he's such an asshole, right?
Oh yeah.
He's like being so forward with her, being like, you can sort of feel like the weird sexual aggression going on, right? And he's like flaunting his money all about. Like, this is the kind of guy who you would want to steal money from.
Speaking of that guy, I hate, and like they write this line well because I do feel resentment for it, that later on he's getting all upset about his money being gone, and he's I think like on the phone or something. I can't remember how we hear him say it. It might be just like word of mouth, but he says, "Oh, it was that one stupid lady that was clearly like making moves at me, like she was clearly hitting on me," and I'm just like, I hate you.
Oh, I think
you're the worst.
I think that was one of like the voices that was running through Marion's head.
That's
what
right.
she's picturing, how they're talking about her, and that's what she thinks. Yeah,
I was thinking like he didn't even say that, but I still hate him because that's so true. He would say
he would. Yeah, like what she's hearing in her head is very believable, and it could be what they're saying.
I like the way that they did that, the whole what she hears in her head, because all it is visual wise is just her sitting in a car looking uncomfy, but we completely understand the voices in her head. So it's an interesting thing to be able to do from a director's perspective from way back when.
I think that the whole beginning of the movie, like the whole shebang up until the introduction of the private investigator, is amazing. I think it's perfect. I think I wouldn't really change anything. I think you can use everything there, even with like the car swapping and everything. While that's not utilized in the current movie, I still think like it does at something at the beginning. It's something that you think will come up later. It just happens not to. But it's all super well done, right? The music, the score, the voices running through your head, the anxiety, the horror, right? It all works. I think, and it, of course, right, it is an old movie and it does have these subtleties, or it doesn't have these certain nuances, like you said, that we expect in movies nowadays, good movies nowadays. But what it starts to lack after this amazing setup, after the twist, all that stuff, I think the two things that happen is that we get introduced to a lot of characters that we don't know, that we don't really care about, and the pacing also falls apart. Because when you start this movie, the pacing, it's slow, it's methodical, it ramps up. But I think the first time where the pacing is a little off is when we get this private investigator and we have a compilation of him like visiting different motels to find the Bates Motel. And by the way, I think the PI is fine. Like, he's a fine character. Like I said earlier, I don't think showing his death is necessary. But I love the dialogue. One of my favorite scenes in the movie is the dialogue between the PI and Norman. I think it really shines, like Norman's character really shines there. But that's like where the pacing starts to go downhill. Because then you sort of have like this, I don't know, like it almost gives me a weird feeling of, well, this is getting stupid. Like, not in a dumb way, but in like a funny way, like a silly way. Like, you know, because then he kills the PI and it's like, all right, how many more people are going to show up that Norman's just going to kill and hide somewhere? And then we get all these characters that we don't care about, like the sheriff and the sheriff's wife, and even Sam and Marion's sister. Like, we don't know them, yet they become our protagonists. And so I don't know, like, exactly what the problem is there, but I know that the pacing's off. Everything starts to happen very quickly, especially when Sam and Marion, they come back, or they come to the Bates Motel to investigate, right? Which is all well and good. But Marion's sister's only in the house for what seems like a very short time. There's no time where she's anxious about Norman finding her. There's no like hiding scene where Norman is searching for her in the house. Sam doesn't get killed or anything. He just gets knocked out for a little bit and then gets right back up to capture Norma before he can even kill Marion's sister. It feels like the climax of the movie was smothered before it could actually climax, if that makes sense. And so I think those sorts of nuances with the pacing, with the development of those characters so that we have something to care about, something to connect to, is where the movie falls short, and why the sort of connecting the beginning of the movie, which is like the first half of the movie, to the ending of the movie. I think that whole part is missing some nuance that the first part of the movie has in spades.
I get what you mean, and you bring up an interesting point that this movie is often looked at to be almost in two parts. There's Marion's part, and then there's everything post Marion. And it is interesting that I think when you watch it like that, you don't quite notice that pacing. But the truth is, it is a whole movie. So yeah, the pacing does really change in that second part, in the PM part. I can see how that would be bothersome, and I do agree that the detective's death should have been off screen. I think that would have been just fine. A hide scene probably would have done well for a modern horror movie. I think the truth is that this movie, horror wasn't even truly a genre when this movie came out. And it was a genre to an extent. I'm not trying to dismiss lots of earlier horror movies, but we didn't have such a handle on it like we do today. We didn't have all the conventions and tropes that you use in horror. Mm-hmm. This movie does a weird thing where it's trying to be a horror movie. It's very close to being one. But the best that they understand it as is a murder mystery movie.
Yeah.
So that's what they're putting on screen. So when you're watching, but today as a modern audience, we're watching it as a horror movie because it is the birth of almost a whole genre of horror. There are certain expectations we have when we go into a theater and watch horror. Psycho isn't that. And I'll say, the thing that bothers me most, and I don't know if I classify it under pacing, but it does mess with the pacing. I want to say the studios actually made Hitchcock do this. The end scene where we see the psychologist explain Norman and be like, well, in reality, it's his mother. And like, for some reason, 5 times throughout the dialogue, he gets to be like, but it's not Norman, it's the mother. Because I guess they didn't get it the first 20 times. Mm-hmm. That whole part is just kind of a little cheesy, the way it's given to you. It's almost too Scooby-Doo-esque of like Fred standing up in front of everybody and being like, but it was the movie director because he was in love with his assistant, but she was married. And you're just like, okay, that's great and all. This is a kid's movie. This is fine. But this isn't a kid's movie. And we're getting that weird explanation. And I heard somewhere that it is the studios that made Hitchcock do that because they were afraid audiences wouldn't understand. Mm-hmm. And I think there's a remake, I want to say in the 90s, like a shot-for-shot remake that they do the end scene better somehow, is what I've heard. I want to see that to see what they change with it, but I think that scene, it is just a little cheesy, and it's cool seeing Norman at the end asking for the blanket and all. I think that is what makes it tolerable.
Yeah.
Makes it a little original. But, yeah, I think that as an audience, I feel almost like insulted whenever they try to explain the whole movie to you afterwards.
Yes.
Because I'm like, okay, leave something for us. But it didn't ruin the movie, and at least it was well-written dialogue, even if it was a cheesy scene. It did hurt me as an audience member to be like, okay, you don't gotta baby me. That's just unnecessary.
What we care about is Norman Bates and him being his mother. And so it would have been nice if instead of hearing this explanation, if instead we could hear the interview with Norman. Hearing that instead would be so much better, would be so much more interesting, even if it is a little explainy, because that's who we're interested in. We are interested in Norman's character. That's someone we do care about. And so having him be the star of the ending and not this random person would have been much, much better, much more impactful, I think.
Yeah, I agree that just hearing that interview, like, and I really wanted to hear that interview. I wish there were like a bonus feature where they like record that interview or something. That'd be so cool.
And I imagine the dialogue that they could have had, because the dialogue in this movie was great. They just, especially with Norman, of course, like one of my favorite scenes is the PI talking to Norman. It feels so real, like the way that the PI is like, using his colloquial dexterity to like walk circles around Norman to get him to tell little lies here and there to tear apart his story to get the truth is so well done. And like to not have that dialogue later, to not utilize Norman's character more in the ending when you could have so easily done so, it is disappointing.
Yeah, it is one of the, I think, greater faults of the movie. And I guess faults, I want to say shortcoming more than fault, because it didn't ruin the movie not having it, but it could have been so much more. Well, Ian, we got a little more time, and I think we should dedicate the rest of this time to our surveys if you're ready for it. Are there any last things you want to say?
Let's see if anything comes up.
Yeah. So as we said, the audience, they gave it an 8 out of 10 for enjoyment. As for whether or not it scared them, 3.7. Easy. No time whatsoever. That feels wrong for some reason. Why does that feel wrong? Hold on. 17, 21.
One of these days, I'm going to invest $5 into getting you a calculator.
Man, dude, no way. No way. Who needs it? 4.2. There we go.
Yeah,
that's much better.
You just took a second time, that's all. You're just, you're zoning in on the answer.
I'm doing my own murder mystery. The murder is just a number. And we had like highs of 6s. We had as low as a 2 is kind of the general range of this movie, which is a pretty big range. And I want to say that the difference and how much it scared you is the difference between you and me on whether or not really that shower scene was believable for you or not.
Mm-hmm. If it
wasn't, if it made you grimace, I think you're going to be up where in those like 5, 6s. If it didn't, I do think you're falling down in like to a 1 or a 2. Because that is the big horror part of the movie. That really is the big scare factor. The other one, maybe being when you see the mother actually is dead, that might make it so it isn't a 1, but it's a 2 if that didn't scare you. But it's not gonna bump it up to like a 9 or a 10. I think that it is pivotal on what you think of that shower scene. But we wanted to ask them what it is that scared you most in this movie, and this is where you're getting tested, Ian. And I'm gonna tell you this: there is a fat correct answer.
Ooh,
are we ready for it?
Sure.
There is Norman's creepy demeanor. There's the shower stabbing. There's his split personality. And there's the mummified corpse.
I'm going to go with Norman's creepy demeanor.
Do you think that one won out?
Yeah, like I know the shower is the big one, but I think that because Norman's performance is so high up there, it's so good, so convincing, I think that's going to be the most powerful and the most scary for most people.
Okay. Well, and while we did have a clear winner, Ian, there were 2 that tied for last place. I want to see which do you think those would be?
I'm going to go for the mummified corpse and split personality.
Okay. So, and I can't blame you for getting this wrong, actually, Ian, because this one shocked me as well. The 2 that tied for last were the shower stabbing and the split personality.
Okay.
The winner was the mummified corpse.
No.
I can't believe people were... What kind of an audience do we have? They watch horror. I thought they watched horror movies. I don't know.
I put that on there as an afterthought. I was like, I have 3. What's a possible 4th one I could put down? Oh yeah, there was the mummified mother. I guess that's kind of scary.
I can't. What?
Oh my gosh.
Jeez, our audience is freaking suicidal and scaredy casty. I am curious. I'm already curious as to like when we hop into this next part, if there's going to be anyone that says I would have died in this movie, because I don't think that's even part of the question. But like just knowing our audience, that's going to be something.
But it's like the mummified corpse. It's just like, what would you do if you came across a mummified corpse? I would die. That's just like, no, it won't. It's dead. It won't kill you.
Yeah,
you can still escape.
Let's say you're talking to Norman in the room. What do you do? I die. For sure. You don't even know he's dead. No, I'm just dead. So we asked the question, you stop at the Bates Motel as you can no longer see the road from all the rain. At what point do you bail? And you gave the example of before or after seeing the stuffed birds. But I think almost everybody seemed to use that example as when they would bail. Our first one is, I would bail as soon as I saw the stuffed birds. Anyone who's that obsessed with taxidermy can't be healthy. To a degree, I have actually met some cool taxidermists, though. They just like doing what they do.
You know, I think and I think it's perfect in this case because it's supposed to be a motel right off the old highway.
Yeah.
Which is funny because when Marion pulls over, there's like a bunch of cars on the road. But anyways, ignoring that, it's off the old highway. Like it's supposed to be like, in a rural area. And having gone on a lot of road trips myself, whenever I, go into like a small town, there's always like, there'll be like 5 houses and 3 taxidermy places.
Yeah, there are some places where it's just what you do. Our next one is, God damn it, dude. To be honest, I definitely die in the shower. Just try to live.
When would you bail? I wouldn't. I would just die.
I know for a fact I wouldn't be able to pick up that he killed people. He seemed nice. He was getting a little creepy in that talk, but for the most part, yeah, he was pretty nice.
and this is interesting because I like we've talked about with the subtleties with Norman's character. Upon first glance, like ignoring my bias because I know that he's a murderer when I watch it, ignoring that, he comes off as like awkwardly charming, and I could even see him even to like even to people who like are a little more watchful with that. Like I could see him coming off as harmless, because he's just a bit of an awkward, like nice fellow. Like he doesn't seem especially dangerous to me. And I think to a lot of other people.
He did a good job of playing innocent.
Yeah.
But while like just getting the subtleties of creepy like we talked about. Well, okay, and our third one here is I'd definitely be done when he admitted that he wasn't hungry and watched me eat. I think at that point I would just think it was a weird sex thing though, and not that he might stab me in the shower. I still don't understand why she stayed there after the rain stopped, knowing that she wasn't far from seeing Sam. Which I hear. I also think it would have been a weird time to see Sam, like in the dead of night like that.
Yeah.
But the fact that she changed her mind about seeing Sam while she was with Norm tells me that she might have been actually looking for an excuse to be talked out of it.
Yeah.
She might have been seeking that out, and she found it.
Yeah, I think she was looking for that, and I think she came across what she thought was a sweet guy who, the way that he talked, the way that he, talked about himself and his own struggles, convinced her that, that it's okay, that that she has something good going on, and that she shouldn't throw it away so lightly.
Oh no! Oh god! I wish our audience would have just left it to dying, because this one's worse. Our next one is, I won't be leaving. I can make it work. The birds won't be the only thing stuffed. Why are they this way? I've heard that women do love it when a boy has a good relationship with his mother. So this one is, I would have gone to my room, no convo, no nothing, so I might have died. Weirdly enough, I think you would have lived, because the only reason that the mom side of Norman felt obligated to kill was because Norman was feeling attracted to our character, Marion. If you didn't give him reason to be attracted, you might have been fine.
Yeah, it's interesting. You kind of go 2 ways about it. Was she going to die as soon as she got room number 1? Or was she going to die as soon as she accepted eating lunch with him?
And it would be an interesting point of debate. I'd like to see like experts talk on it or something. Our second to last response for this one, Ian. The stuffed birds would definitely scare me off. On the other hand, I'm really deeply unobservant, so I would probably end up dead before I left. All right. There's unobservant, but then there's not noticing the 20 stuffed birds on the wall. But, to each their own.
Hey, at least we get honest responses, right?
That's true. And our last one. So many red flags springing up from Norman Bates. I would have noticed them, but like Marion, I probably rationalized my way through each one and end up a corpse in a bathtub. Which I think is fair, because we all will see red flags from people. Like, we've all met, like, someone creepy working at a place. Maybe even at a hotel or something. But we think to ourselves, but there's no way I get murdered. Like, they're a bit of a creep. They might be having weird thoughts, but I'm not murdered at the end of the night. And it happens to us plenty enough that we grow comfortable that it won't happen.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I think that is a very real world answer, and I appreciate that.
Definitely. And, of course, there's all those doubt things of sure, you could say, well, it's not raining, I could leave, but it's also it's nighttime, I'm turning back, I should really sleep, and like, where else am I gonna find? Like, how long am I gonna drive? Like, there's all these little things that your brain could tell you that make you want to push it off. So yeah.
So we also ask our audience to share with us any other thoughts they had. The first one is, this is definitely an oldie but a goodie. I like the twist and the psychological aspect of it. Yeah, I think that's fair.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's generally the gist of what we're getting at. This one's, I don't think we've ever had one of these that just like threw one of us for a loop, That was just like, that basically said, you're right, I'm wrong. But if there was ever an answer, this is one. The first half of the movie was a lot of driving around with scary music in the background. I understand why they chose to do that, but I still didn't like it. The second half really carried the film, though, and Anthony Perkins' performance was amazing.
All right, listen here.
Yeah.
Listen here, okay? You stay away from my scary music driving, all right? You have your Scooby doing freaking murder mystery second half, all right? I'll keep the first one.
I like to think that it was Amelia that left this comment. I like to think like secretly she like has one conversation with you and then she's just like typing to tear him apart.
I've set him up, now I watch him fall.
Psycho owes its success to its fabulous score and the actor's portrayal of Bates, which, yes, Anthony Perkins really does a great job. No doubting that. I like this one because keep in mind when we throw out the survey, it is optional. But this one is just no thoughts, and they leave a little heart emoticon. So thanks for that. They just wanted to leave some love. And our last answer. Everyone remembers the shower scene. My mom's best friend saw Psycho in the theater in 1960, and for months after insisted her husband stand guard whenever she showered. But I think what really scared them and us is the strange and unpredictable nature of Norman Bates. Everyone sees him as odd and off-putting, but essentially harmless. Nobody sees the danger erupting from deep inside his damaged brain until it is far too late. What a great way to say it.
Damn.
I would agree that with everything you said there, it is Norman that really carries the show. I think a couple people said that. Or actually, I think like 3 people said that. Well, Ian, I think that's all the responses we have. Are there any last words you want to give us?
Yeah, I do think that if you watch this movie like a murder mystery, you will be far less disappointed. It has good twists. And again, I still really enjoyed the movie, but you'll be less disappointed. It's a good murder mystery with the potential to be an amazing horror movie. And I think that's where I stand.
Yeah, and I'd say that's fair. I really admire it for bringing kind of about the slasher genre we have today. It's kind of that like pre-slasher that I think is really enjoyable. And I'd say it's worth a watch just for really anybody. Just a good movie to see. A good one to have under that tool belt. Whatever the case, thank you all so much for stopping by. It has been an absolute pleasure being able to talk about this movie with y'all. Mm-hmm. We have been Paths of Fear. And speaking of podcast episodes, check out the Discord link in the description, and you will be all set to join us for our movie nights and give us your opinion on the movies. All right, cool. Thank you guys, and have a wonderful day or night. Farewell.
Goodbye.
I feel like we should have like a tagline in it, like stay spooky or something.